How do we take this and turn it into this? Let's get into it. We're going to be making some punchy, dry, dead drums within Addictive Drums 2. First thing is to find a set that will be a good template for us to build off of. What I'm doing in this phase is just hearing the tone of the snare and the kick, just to find something to build off of. So we're just going to play some sets from the modern soul and R&B drums and just see what works. Now this is a good set because it's dry. I like the tone of the kick and snare. We can mold that to our taste. So the first thing that I want to do is unlink any drums. I don't want this to be linked to the kick. I just want to hear the kick. I don't want to hear this flexi pad. So now that we're looking at our kick, let's just go ahead and hear it. So it's airy, it's not punchy at all, there's no low end, so we're gonna change that. So the first thing we can do with the kick is turn down the overhead level and the room level. We don't need that. I want this drum to be mono, I want it to be punchy. So the next thing we can do is adjust our volume envelope. Now for all these drums, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a very short decay for all these drums, so they're snappy, tight, and punchy. I don't really want any transients. I don't want any long, drawn out drum sounds. I want everything to be short hits. So you can hear already the difference when we bring down the decay. And for the cut, we can also take this range down. We just want the low frequencies to pass through. Let's also mute the snare. I don't want to hear the snare buzz right now. I just want to hear the kick. So it's getting there. A little more thumpy. Now we could take this mic, put it all the way to the front. We can already hear a little bit more of a short thump. And we'll turn off all the compression for all the individual drums and compress them on the built-in master. Next, let's just do some EQ. We don't really want any high end in the kick. Sounds good. We can also do this tape and shape. Now the tape and shape adds a lot of low end to the kick, so we can just use a bit of that and then just turn up this output. Now I do have a saturator on here with soft clipping on, just acting as a soft clipper so nothing peaks. Okay, that kick sounds pretty cool. Sounds better than what we had, so let's move on to the snare. So we can bring the snare buzz back a little bit. I like a low snare buzz. I think it sounds pretty natural. So this for the snare. Let's also turn down the overhead and room level. We can also bring the pitch up a little bit. And same thing with the volume envelope. We're going for very short, punchy drums. So let's bring our range up. We don't need really any of the low frequencies. Now, as far as where the mics sit, it's kind of up to your personal preference. I'm going to stay a little bit more towards the bottom side. Same thing, we're going to turn the compression off because we'll compress everything at the end. And then let's just bring some of the mid frequencies back in the snare. And we can add some tape and shape. Now this shape right here shapes the transients a bit. Turning the sustain down will actually make the transients shorter, so we'll turn that down. Okay, now let's work on the hat. So, same thing. Don't really want too much of the overhead and the room volume for the hat. We can also mess with the pitch a little bit too. So for the volume envelope, we do want to have the decay be a little bit longer so we can have these open hats sort of draw out. Because if we shorten the decay, all the open hats essentially go away. So we want to keep that. And we can bring a lot of the low end out in the cut. Keep the compression off. You can also EQ. Take out some of the high frequencies. Now in the tape and shape, I do want to take the sustain down, make these transients shorter for these hat hits. Already the drums are sounding a lot better than when we started. So now that we have sort of the essential parts of the drum kit, the kick, snare, and the hat all sounding good, let's move on to the master. So for drums, I like to keep a ratio around 4. And then we can do a long attack and a short release. Turn down the threshold a little bit. Let's add some distortion. You can really cycle through these and play with the amount and the type of distortion. But I'm just going to go for crunch. We're just going to add crunch to an amount that's not too crazy. Bring the threshold down a little bit. Now we can skip the EQ since we kind of EQ'd the drums individually. For the tape and shape, we can definitely add a little bit more drive and a little bit more bottom. And we can also bring the sustain down the shape, just to make everything sound a little tighter. And that's pretty much it. So we went from this to this. Now, if you don't like the sound of a particular drum or hat, you can always just change it here till you get something that sounds better. So let's change this hat. Sounds better. I like that more. So now let's lay down some drums. One thing to keep in mind, if you want your drums to sound more natural, I would recommend playing just hand drumming and playing along with a metronome, keeping some of that human, off time, off grid nature of the playing. You can always tighten up things later in MIDI, which I'll show you. The velocity for that hat went down a little too low. This gets a little late, so we can actually just Scooch everything over a bit. You can also turn the grid off so you can manually move things off the grid. You can use the arrow keys to just nudge things over just a bit. So you can just keep everything, keep the swing, you know. So now that we have our drums, how we like them, they're off the grid. They feel natural, it feels like someone's drumming. Let's just play over this drum groove. That's how you make your addictive drums sound a lot better. I will be linking down below to free and paid packs. I'm releasing addictive drums presets. There's a little free demo which you can download some of the presets, try them out for yourself, and then there's a full pack. Everything's on my Patreon. I'm also dropping some drum kits in the future, so look out for those. Peace.